So, in this, I guess in the simplest way possible, definition of done is literally, as the phrase suggests, your definition of what done means, which means it is a measurement of the completeness of work. So at the end of a time box, when you finish something, how do you demonstrate to somebody that you are done with it? Right? So if you were to parameterize the things that you would need to do in order to prove that you are done with something, that would qualify as a definition of done, right? So in your project, whatever that project might be, think about how you're going to make some piece of work demonstrable to a stakeholder. What kind of documentation would you need? What kind of approvals would you need? What kind of logistical work needs to be complete? If you're working in some sort of a big Fortune 50 or Fortune 100 company, think about from a change management perspective, right? Implementation plans, backout plans, disaster recovery procedures, change tickets, change approvals, customer readiness, all those things would be examples of things that you would want to create in your checklist of things that you would say, because we are done with these 15 things, that's why we can say that whatever we picked up in this cycle or this sprint or this time box, we are done with it. So it's a way of validating with your stakeholders and within the team that we are saying we are done because we have finished all these things. So it's like a body of work that needs to be checked off. It's a way to prove to yourself as a team, as well as to people around you who are not part of your team, that you are done with something. So you're basically building a shared understanding of these things, right? People who are not working with you, if they were to ask you a question of, hey, Cosmic, how do you know if you're done with this? Like, how do you say that? Well, we did task 1, task 2, task 3. We got 3 approvals. We got the goal from somebody else. We got a green light from somebody else. All of those things now become a definition of done. What's most important to remember is this definition of done is only going to be as realistic or as practical as your reality right now. So it's going to be informed by your reality. And as your reality changes, this definition will also change over time. So it is recommended, and I guess I would say required, that you as a team revisit this definition of done on a regular basis. So you can look at it, you can revamp it, make it better, make it current, and it will evolve throughout the course of your execution. And by the end of the project, you end up with a definition of done that is far more rigorous and robust and comprehensive than what it was when you started the project, right? So it will grow as the project also grows. Yeah, so that's a very good question. You probably don't want the definition of done to change within the sprint because that creates a lot of confusion and churn. A definition of done is like the end goal we're trying to get to, right? So it's to say that by the end of this window, these 15 things that we committed to, we have to get to done. So then what does done mean? Done is like a shared understanding of where we want to be. So you don't want that done or that goalpost to change as you're working through that. At the end of the time box, it's good if you want to revisit the definition of done and change it for the next batch, right? Because you might have learned something, you may have missed something, or you want to enhance something. Ideally, you don't want that thing to evolve as you're working through it. It's almost like changing the recipe of a dish as you're building that dish or as you're cooking that dish, right? You probably want to keep it consistent while you're cooking it because you have a formula that you're following. By the end of that, when you taste it, you're like, you know what, maybe too much salt this time. Maybe next time back it up a little bit. And so your definition done now changes a little bit from that perspective. On the other side of the same spectrum, you will have a definition of ready. The definition of ready now is a checklist of things or checklist of information pieces you need before you can say you are ready for planning, right? So realistically, in your own personal life, this might be your keys wallet check that you do before you leave your home, right? Do I have all the things I need before I can start my trip? Just the same way a Scrum team will say, do we have all the information pieces we need before we can say we are ready for planning? And so when the items move from a larger product backlog into a smaller sprint backlog, that move needs to be vetted through this definition of ready. Just like the items from the sprint backlog becoming an increment towards the end of the sprint, that move needs to be vetted or filtered through the definition of done. So now your definition of ready and definition of done become like these boundary conditions inside of which the team operates. If you set up these boundary conditions and you have discipline around them, then you will eliminate unnecessary noise from your team's ecosystem, like noise of incomplete work coming in, incomplete work going out. And you can drum up all that noise and you can basically amplify that towards your management, saying that, hey, the next time you want us to be more agile, get these things removed from our way. Those are potential impediments or learning opportunities.